And yeah. Ah, there it is. Okay, and they're off. Looks like Ziggy's stream is a slight bit ahead, but that'll get corrected in a moment. All right, so Ziggy's got the same outfit as last time. I like it though. He's rocking the scarf, the glasses, the pink skin with the ruby outfit. Looks good.
Yeah, it's a very respectable outfit. I always rock the scarf as well. Anyone who uses a scarf has true fashion sense. I admire it.
Yes, the scarf is quite great. Red, on the other hand, also looking great though. First person I've seen use the Ira skin so far. So, Ira with the bee wings, I like it a lot.
It's not a very popular one, is it? Although the Rainbow Trail, I always associate that with Cake Sauce. I always see him using the Rainbow Trail. I think it gives him extra speed, so might have the edge here.
It's pretty cool though. It gives you like the trail of exactly where the jumps were and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, it looks very, very flashy.
As I've complained about though, it also is like really off-center during Space Meatball. So it looks really bad on that part.
I don't remember that. I'll have to keep an eye out for that this run, because I can't quite remember how that looks like. I always like the early parts of the run, because both, like, usually regardless of skill, both runners are, like, really, really, like, on top of each other.
Yeah.
There's not really a whole, like, unless you fail the Ruby race, there's not, like, a lot of room for like, losing time yet.
Right.
That comes soon.
I was just going to say though, if you do fall from the crumbly bits on this part, it's that's really
as we just saw.
Which it can happen right there, or it can easily happen if you miss the damage boost. Also, you just fall if you don't react fast enough. You just fall right through.
Should we go over damage boosting or?
Yeah. So how the deal with damage boosting in this game is that it has to do with the game's core jumping mechanic, which is just the fact that if you drop off of a ledge without, or if you somehow find yourself in the air without yet jumping, you can still jump, which means that you can also utilize when you get hit in this game, you kind of get popped up about a foot into the air, and then because of how the previous mechanic works, you can just jump out of that and be able to jump just a little bit faster than the level design intends you to be able to. And you'll see that used in a couple spots. The spot that we just saw saves about 10 seconds, but there will be some really, really big time saves used with those damage boosts later.
Yeah, one of the, probably one of the largest damage boosts, if not the largest damage boost, is coming up in the next stage of the Terrestrial Veil. Probably skips, I don't remember the exact timing, but I'd say it's probably about 30 seconds worth, maybe a little bit more. You skip like a big section of the Veil. And that's just one of the damage boosts. There's, I mean, already one's been done right before the first portal. There's a lot more coming up. It's probably the most core sort of speed strat in the game.
Yeah, I think Ancient Constructs might be a bigger skip, though.
Oh yeah, I never remember that as a damage boost, even though I guess, yeah, it is.
Yeah.
It's true.
Alright, so Ziggy's coming into Myogi now, the first kind of boss in the game. She's really like a mini-boss. But basically she has a shield up as she attacks you, but then she taunts you in between attacks where she lets her shield down, allowing you to get one hit on her. So you'll see the different weapons being used here. We've seen them a little bit so far. Here's where we see Sloth. It has kind of a long wind-up and a long cooldown on it, so the DPS isn't that great, but the burst damage that when it does hit is the largest in the game. So for a boss like this, where she only lets you hit her once at a time, using this weapon is very, very effective, and it gets through the boss having her only attack you 3 times, which is really good because you can't damage her during attacks.
Yeah, there aren't really many uses for it in the game, but this boss is a prime example where it's like ideal. A lot of the time you're focusing sort of on doing more hits at once rather than just these big consecutive hits. So yeah, don't expect to see that weapon a whole lot throughout the run, but it gets its time in the spotlight here, at least at the very start.
Yeah, pretty much every weapon has a use somewhere. In the speed run, we don't see any Gluttony or Wrath, but those do have their places in other categories.
Oh yeah, Wrath exists. Wow.
Yeah.
I was just thinking, like, yeah, Gluttony gets underappreciated, but Wrath actually exists, huh?
Yeah, Wrath...
Like, I mean, it's just like basically a little like a, it's like a mix between Pride and Sloth, I guess.
Right.
Like, it is a big hit, but it's not really that substantial, and it's also kind of slow.
So the main weapon in the game is the one that just hits the big like crescent arc in front of you, and the big deal about it is that it does 4 damage in kind of a short burst. And Wrath is kind of similar, but it hits slower, but it does 6 damage, but the overall DPS is less. But in like hard mode on the game, when more enemies have exactly 6 HP, it gets used a little bit more frequently because it's a good way to deal a quick 6 damage.
Yeah, it's more of a demon mode sort of weapon, whereas Mortal, it's... I don't want to say it's... Well, it probably is actually the most, or the least useful weapon in Mortal Purified mode. At least Gluttony has a couple of sort of handy uses, although one of those uses was on Ancient Constructs, which we now no longer do.
Right.
Yeah. We used to be able to use Gluttony to sort of get past one of those.
So the other weapons that we'll see used a lot in the speedrun, besides the ones we've talked about, Envy is the one you're seeing right now on RedsToad screen. It's very similar to the regular weapon, however, instead of doing a burst of damage, it does consistent damage at a slightly higher DPS, which means if you're just trying to go for DPS, it's a little bit better. It's only worse if your enemy has 4 or less HP, because of the way that the main weapon hits the 4 damage very quickly. It actually kills things faster than the one with the higher DPS.
Very close kill on Red Screen there. He just glitched that. I mean, you're always going to take a lot of damage on Pagoro, which is the second boss, but he had quite a close call there. Just managed to get it.
And then the last weapon, the one that you'll see probably the most often, is Greed. That's the one that just hits a little circle around V. It has very, very low range, so that's kind of the risk of it, which is just that it hits... You have to be very close to enemies, but it does hit all around you, and it has the highest DPS in the game, so... It's a little tricky to use, but it's generally the most useful.
Yeah, it's basically the high-risk, high-reward weapon of the game, which makes it ideal for speedruns.
And makes it ideal to have the name Greed. I've always loved that.
Basically the definition of greed.
Yep.
Going for the best kill.
Alright, so Ziggy is on Electram. So one thing that you noticed about Pergora is that at 40% health, he kind of did like a scream, and then all his attacks became a little bit more fearsome. Electram does kind of a different form of Enrage here, also at 40% health, but he goes over to the left side of the screen, becomes invulnerable for a long period of time where he does a series of attacks before the fight resumes after that.
Yeah, we've long wished there was a way to skip this Enrage, because it does take quite a while, and skipping Enrages is kind of like a thing, especially after the Yogi Enrage skip, but we've never quite been able to find a way to get past it. So, he is the bounty. If anyone can find a way to skip Electram's Enrage, you'll make a lot of speedrunners day.
Yeah. An interesting tech that you see on the way to Electram is that after you fight Electram, you're supposed to backtrack back to the village. However, if you just skip all of the checkpoints on the way to him, then you can just death warp back to the village much faster. It is risky, though, because checkpoints restore your health. So if you get hit on the way to Electram, then you kind of have to decide whether you want to go into the fight with less HP, or if you want to take the save, refill your health, and have to backtrack. And of course, if you die, then it's even more of a big deal that you skip checkpoints, because then you have to redo platforming sections. Alright, so Ziggy is getting into the Veil 2 here. This is one of the more pivotal parts of the run, because of the damage boost that we were talking about earlier, one of the largest ones in the game. It's really hard to pull off. There's a couple different ways to do it that have varying levels of risk versus reward. We'll see how Ziggy does it here. I would very much expect taking that checkpoint in a race.
Yeah, I mean, the ideal strat is not to take it, but it's really, really risky, especially in a race setting. So he's got a damage boost off the saw here. Flutter up, you get just enough height to skip that. So that skips like all the entire right-hand side of the Veil here. He's going to take the hard just to make it a bit safer, because if you do die, obviously you go back to that checkpoint and you have to redo the damage boost, which is kind of risky. He had a close call with that bug there as well.
Yeah.
He's going to tank the Soul Blade here, which lets him get back by there a bit faster. And looks like he's gone to the save, so that was a pretty good damage boost, little segments.
Yeah, that was
a pretty tricky one to do.
Yeah, that was beautiful. And then nails the troll cave
as well.
Oh, and he does the little jump so that he avoids the second rock from the rock thrower, which means I'm guessing he's going to skip this checkpoint here. Yep.
Yep.
So just like Electram, he's going to skip the checkpoint that's in front of Amethyst so that after defeating her, he doesn't have to backtrack through the top of the troll cave. So that'll save a little bit of time as well, just so long as he can defeat Amethyst without full health.
Yeah, so Amethyst is a pretty fun boss. She's also one of the most consistent bosses time-wise in the game. You can't really beat her that much faster if you're just doing like damage when you can. She always caps out to, I think it's 16 damage for each attack before you can't deal any more damage to her. So it's really just a matter of just managing the attacks, damaging her when you can, and then after you've done the damage that you can, you just kind of wait for the attack to end. So
yep.
it's basically just a don't choke attack fight.
Okay, is it a thing or am I just crazy that rock attacks almost always happen when there's no more fire? Like, I swear, every time I get rocks, the fire goes away.
I remember the opposite, where I always got rocks as soon as there was fire everywhere. It was like, well, this is perfect.
Gotta love RNG.
Yep.
Alright, so Red is doing the damage boost now. Looks like he's also going for the heart.
Mm-hmm.
It's just so, yeah, it's just so much safer in a race to go for the heart.
And Ziggy gets Amethyst down, so he's going to reset back before the troll cave, which saves, I think it's about 10 seconds of backtracking through the cave here. And he's going to head on to the next stage, which is the Sinister Grotto, probably one of the more, I'd say, consistent platforming sections of the game with practice. I think it's like it has the least amount of things that can go really, really wrong, but it's not easy.
It also... Yeah, Sinister Grotto also has a lot of checkpoint skipping, so if there are any unexpected deaths, they tend to be extra brutal.
Yeah.
And the reason that checkpoints are skipped here isn't to avoid backtracking like the last couple times. It's just because a lot of the checkpoints in Sinister Grotto are a little bit out of the way and just take a while to grab.
Yeah, there's one save in particular, just before the first boss of the grotto, that we, in the community, nicknamed the Save of Shame. If you go for that save, yeah, well, save of shame. So, I kind of do actually hope some people go for it, because it's nice to see it appreciated. Remember that it actually exists.
Oh, so here's Wrath being used
wow.
in Mortal. So these spiders have 6 HP, which means the fastest way to kill them, really, is to hit them with Wrath.
Yeah, and Ziggy did a wonderful strat there, found by, I don't remember who found that strat, but you jump up and you spawn the plants and then take the save, because the first time you take a save, it kills everything that you've seen on screen, which makes doing that room a bit safer. You have to worry about killing them and flipping back and forth between the lasers. Very good strat on Ziggy's part there.
So one thing we didn't mention about the Amethyst fight is that big death beam that she does, after she does it, the fight speeds up, and she does it twice in the fight. So by after the second death beam, the fight just gets crazy fast and really hectic. It's very difficult to avoid damage. There's the swag save, by the way.
Ziggy is not taking the Save of Shame, which is quite disappointing, but understandable. And he's not going to take the one before the boss either. Okay,
yep.
That's
what I'm talking about.
Time, yeah?
Yeah, it's not because they need to backtrack afterward. It's just because those saves are they're not on the way.
So Ziggy's on the Dark Annihilator. I'd say it's probably one of the more consistent bosses. It's also a boss all about micromanagement. You need to just basically juggle a lot of balls at once, and I mean, quite literally, he's throwing balls at you. You need to, get rid of them before they land.
Yes.
It's all about just keep on top of things.
Yeah, and you can only damage him with orbs, and your orbs only recharge so fast. It's indicated by the little dots above V's head that you see. You can store up to 3 orbs at once, and they recharge at a set pace. so you can only deal so much damage to this boss. What that means, though, is that there are some other things in the fight that you need to take care of as they come out, such as those balls that he throws out, and also, now that he's enraged, these missiles that come out from the right side. So you actually want to hit those with melee, so that you're not using up your orbs, because you need to save those to damage the boss.
Yeah, to do optimal damage, you want to be making sure you're always firing orbs when you can, and you want them all to be hitting the boss. And it's a pretty consistent fight again, time-wise. You can't really make it that much longer or shorter, unless you're missing a lot of orbs, but it's usually fairly easy to keep on track of things, so long as you don't get overwhelmed by the bombs and the missiles, which thankfully Ziggy didn't.
And one weapon that we didn't talk about when discussing the weapons before is Lust, which is a high-range weapon. It doesn't have a big arc, it's just kind of straightforward and a large range, but it only does half the damage of the regular weapon. It does 2 damage at once. But for a boss like Dark Annihilator, that's perfect, because the balls that he throws only have 1 HP, and the missiles that come from the right have 2 HP. So everything that you need to kill with melee in the fight is killable with a Lust attack, so having the extra range is really, really helpful there.
Yeah, I don't think anybody would want to do that fight with Greed.
Yeah.
Sure. Red's also coming up to the Dark Annihilator boss. He's on half HP, so he's going to take the save here, which is... it's the safe option. You don't really want to take a risk and fight the boss on half HP unless you're really trying to go for a big time save. Smart move on Red's part, though. So Ziggy's on one of the sort of later auto-scrollers right before the second boss. I believe this is the last save now. So he's coming up to the final boss of the grotto. If the plants give any indication, the final boss of the grotto is a giant plant. There is one attack that if you don't get, the fight does become quite a bit faster, although... I mean, I can't do the quick math, but it's fairly unlikely you don't get spores until the 6th attack, so... We'll see what happens.
Oh, right, yeah. He's one of those bosses where he has 6 different attacks and he doesn't repeat them until he's done all of them, right? So
yeah,
the fight is fastest if a certain one comes last.
Which almost never happens.
And yeah, here's the boss himself, good old Terravine, and he gets spores right away, so... I mean, it's not... Oh, he actually got hit by the spores.
I'm not sure if that was intentional to try and speed it up or if he just accidentally got hit there. It's always risky getting hit because getting hit by the spores, especially if it's a 3rd attack, can lower your jump height so you can't reach the minecarts. And if you get hit by his big charge laser after 3 attacks, you do just instantly die. So it's kind of... it can spiral out of control kind of fast.
Yeah, so Ziggy only sent 2 minecarts at him. The big thing about Terravine is that after... 3 attacks that he does, he charges up a giant laser which will kill you in 1 hit, and you have to stun him out of it by hitting him with the minecart, and you're provided 3 minecarts, but because you're using Greed and getting in all the damage that you can, you don't need to stop his laser 3 times. You really generally only need to stop it once if you're doing good damage. So that means that the runners will generally send all 3 minecarts at him right away. But if something happens, like taking those spores early and that kind of thing, you might see him only send 2 out just to be safe.
Yeah, he elected to go for safe shots there, which is a wise idea. He could have very, very easily died otherwise. I don't think he had the damage to push through for a for a 1-cycle minecart. Alright, so Ziggy's in the underworld now, which is, in my opinion, the hardest stage of the game. That isn't the truth, but it's, in my opinion, the hardest. There's a lot of saves that can go horribly wrong because of the fire guys, or the charas, or the many other names they have. They can get right in your way on crumbly platforms. They can get you into fire, which burns you. There's just a lot of things that can go wrong here.
Yeah, a lot of quick, unexpected deaths here, just because of the number of instant death spikes and teleporting guys. So here we have one of these portals. Remember these? This one is significantly harder than the other portals that we've seen due to the skeletons that come out. But it's also pretty relatively consistent, though, as far as Maybe it's just me, but I feel like the order of enemies and what they are a lot easier to remember on that portal, so it's a little easier to...
Yeah, you get used to it pretty fast. It's fairly... Also, there's a new gimmick here, Ziggy just got from the portal there. So these little feathers, when V collects them, she can use it, basically like one charge to sort of get like a feather dash. And she sort of charges forward in a direction. There is a trick to this as well, related to some speedrun skips. If you... I might botch this explanation, but I think if you flutter sort of after getting the dash, you sort of keep your momentum, and you can flutter with the momentum from the feather dash, if that makes sense.
Ooh, Reds just did the dash retro.
What?
He did the dash retro. It's where at the end of this checkpoint, you don't actually check to make sure that you landed, and you just jump, and then you don't have any jumps left, and you fall on the spikes and die.
Is that the dash retro?
Right here. Boop, you gotta land right there.
Yeah. That's always a tough one. Alright, so Ziggy's coming up to Craterak now, which is the first boss of the Underworld. This is a boss that you can make a lot faster if you hit this. All of the rocks on this attack, they all do quite a bit of damage to him. Ziggy got quite a few rocks there, which is pretty good. If you hit all rocks and get perfect damage in the fight, and he does certain attacks, it's actually possible to kill this boss in 2 cycles, although it's kind of incredibly difficult and also RNG reliant. So I wouldn't expect to see it.
Yeah,
most fights usually take around 3 cycles.
3 cycles, yep.
Yeah.
It's pretty rare to see 4 cycles also, just because generally you can do enough damage to not have to get there, but if you miss like all the rocks or just get really sour RNG, then you might take 4 cycles. The tricky thing about the rocks is that when he does the attack that spawns them, they spawn above V's head, which means that you need to sort of be close to the boss so that you can then get behind the rocks and hit them at him. However, the rest of his attacks are a lot harder to dodge if you're close to him, so it takes a lot of quick reading on the boss to be able to actually hit him with the rocks.
So Ziggy got Craterak down. Looks like Red is also going for the triple minecart strat here, so hopefully he has enough damage to push through before the enrage.
Yeah, it looks like he's doing some tanking, but maybe not enough. That was kind of tricky. Oof. Where the...
He's not gonna have damage, unfortunately. Ugh. He had like a cool little dodge there between 2 of the stalactites, I forget which one it is, but...
stalactites are from the ceiling.
Oh, there you go. I learned, or remembered.
What I can never remember, though, is which one has a G and which one has a C. One of them is stalag, and one of them is stalac.
Yeah.
That I can't remember which is
Yeah,
which.
I've never been able to remember the difference between the 2. I just know they sound really, really similar, which is... I don't know why they named it like that, but... Yeah.
Well, mites are from the ground because mines are in the ground. That's how I remember that.
Oh, yeah.
It doesn't help me with the other part, though.
So what Ziggy's doing here, by the way, in this part there's 3 paths you have to take. You have to get a key in each. Ziggy did each of them, and then without saving, he reset back to the start of the 3 paths, which saves you having a backtrack. In one of them, there's like a... Well, there's some like platforming segments where you got like run back. But doing it all in one segment and then just resetting makes it a lot faster. So Ziggy's also coming up to the Ancient Construct skip, which is probably, like you said earlier, Dash, probably one of the biggest skips in the game, if not the biggest skip in the game. It skips a boss, like an entire boss. So
yeah,
it's kind of a big deal.
An entire boss, who's also a really difficult boss.
Yeah. Also a good boss, though, and I'm sad that it's skipped, because it's like the best boss.
Ziggy got the materializer skip there. So when you fight that centaur, there's also 4 materializers that come out one by one, kind of slowly. And the thing is that there's a fog gate that's blocking you until there's no enemies on the screen. But if you kill them just fast enough, you can jump into the fog gate before the next one spawns and skip the rest of them. And if you're really good, like Ziggy just was, you can skip 3 of them out of the 4.
Yeah, it's a really good trick. There's a few times in the game where you can abuse the way the fog gates work to sort of leave a screen before you really should be able to, either by killing things quickly or manipulating things to move off screen. It's actually a pretty cool speed tech. I really like that one. Especially, it like happens in the chambers as well with the skeletons. You can like move things off screen. Should be seeing that soon.
Yeah.
Ziggy's making his way there. Soon.
At the top of the elevator is a big one, but that one I
Yeah.
see people go for safe strats quite often on.
Understandably as well, because you do not want to die there.
Yeah. I tell you, man, auto scrollers.
Yep, the bane of every speedrunner's existence, I know. So Ziggy just did a skip there as well, using the flutter dash mechanic I explained earlier. You grab the feather, then as soon as he dashed, he then flooded, and the flutter kept his momentum, so I guess he travelled further than he normally would, which just let him skip about 30 seconds worth of the library, maybe a tiny bit more. I'm not sure on the exact timings, but it's also a pretty big skip. So now Ziggy's on the elevator, which Dash just mentioned. It's a really, really long auto-scroller. Do you know how long it is, like in length?
In time, I don't know. I know
Yeah.
it's probably the most difficult auto scroller though, and it's pretty long.
Yeah, the first time you get here, it's kind of overwhelming because here there's like sentries from left to right. There's like brutes at the bottom which like laser you as soon as they see you. There's these like swirly like sort of black purplish little orbs that instant kill you if you hit them. And then at the very, very top, after all of this, there are two skeletons just waiting to greet you and just say hey.
Yeah. Not one skeleton, two skeletons.
Two skeletons.
Alright, so Ziggy went for that version of the strat, which is where you kill one of the skelemen, and that allows you to easily manipulate the other one off screen, which allows you to jump through the fog gate without having to kill it, because, again, the fog gates only check if there are enemies on screen, not if all the enemies are dead. Because all the enemies is not really a easily definable term when there's a bunch of like spawners below you and that kind of stuff. So it makes sense that it's only if enemies are on screen.
Mm-hmm. So Ziggy's okay, so you might recognize this boss. We find Yogi a second time in the game. This time she's a lot tougher. She's been practicing apparently in the last 23 minutes or so. So there's a skip called the Yogi 2 skip. Go figure. You can skip her entire enrage, which lasts about 40 seconds or so, or 30. Ideally, Ziggy's stream frozen for you there?
Yeah, for a moment there. There it goes.
Yeah. So he heals her at the start. There's a very certain setup, and he's gonna try and stun her on a very, very exact moment here. Let's see if he gets it.
Nice. I'm pretty sure he got it. No! Oh, jeez.
Yeah, I wasn't sure there.
I thought that looked good.
Yeah, so how it works, every 8 attacks, Yogi gets stunned. So the way you gotta do it is you gotta try and set it up so that when you stun her, you're stunning her as she goes into her enrage. We have a setup for it, but the actual landing for the skip, I think it's about 2 to 3 frames, I forget the exact amounts. It's kind of tricky to land. It's the killer of many, many runs because it's such a big skip. You can see how long this enrage is.
Yeah, Miyogi goes invulnerable for a good 35 to 40 seconds here.
Yeah, she just kind of hops up and down for some reason and just starts throwing balls everywhere.
Oh my gosh, and that RNG was just brutal there. She dropped... So sometimes on that very last moment where she's finishing up the enrage, she doesn't even throw rocks. But sometimes she'll just kind of half-ass it and throw, like, a few rocks. That time she completely gave an entire row of them, except with the gap in the very middle. But that was at the exact moment that she was spawning a skull in the middle that would hurt you if you touched it, so...
Yeah, that was kind of rough on Ziggy, but he managed. He didn't die, at least.
Yeah, and he read it really well, and...
Yeah.
He tanked the rocks instead of the skull, which is less HP and damage. So yeah, that was a really good read. All right, Ziggy's on his way to the chambers now. Meanwhile, Red is making his way to the... Let me think about this. I'm confused. To the Ancient Construct skip is what's coming up next? Yeah.
Yeah, for Red. Ziggy's also coming up to the most exciting part of the entire run, the password. I don't know, do you want to take control here, Dash? This is quite the moment.
We'll see.
Oh my god.
First try! Nailed it!
Legend.
Nailed it.
Alright, well, Ziggy's on fire now. This man can't be stopped. So Ziggy's entering the chambers in just a moment.
Ooh, and he got the Olga skip.
He did indeed. Very, very nice. So the chambers is probably one of the harder platforming segments of the game. There's a lot of kind of tricky maneuvers. The very, very first segment is like it's kind of like the opposite of the elevator. You're just going down as fast as possible, trying to avoid the spike ceiling. And the more switches that he presses kind of delays the spike ceiling a little bit. He does skip a few, because some of them just aren't necessary and are way too out of the way. He's gotten this pretty fine, didn't choke at the bottom. Nice.
And we took a vote last race, and it was determined by majority vote that the ceiling room is not an auto-scroller.
Huh. I guess that, yeah. I can agree with that. That's fair enough. So will Red get the AC skip first try? Ooh, she hopped over him there. Ah. That conving sort of like looped around Red there and made it a bit harder for him.
So here's a really interesting part. We've been talking about fog gates and getting enemies off of the screen. If you manipulate these Skelemen just right as you go, just like that, Ziggy made it through that fog gate without having to fight the Skelemen. Which is really nice, because the deal with those enemies is that they have a really weird pattern of how they hover around and how they move compared to where you are. And sometimes it's just really difficult to deal damage to them. They have 7 HP, but it can be really difficult to just shoot the orbs at them because of how they move. And also, 7 HP is a lot when you only have orbs on them, because you only can really shoot 4 orbs quickly.
Mm-hmm. Also, what Ziggy's doing here is, so these are the Twin Orcs. Usually you're given this entire platform to fight them on. The quick kill option is to opt to not use any of that, other than the very, very edge. And just sort of hop on and off and use greed to get the most damage out. It's a really, really fast strat, also very, very tricky. Ziggy actually took a bit of damage here at the start, so he's going to be careful here. He's a bit low on the purple HP as well. This might be a close call for Ziggy. Let's see how this plays out. Okay, he's playing the Enrage. That's probably the safe option, actually.
Yeah. So after the two lovely orc ladies do their attack phase, then they choose one of 3 Enrage attacks, and that was actually the best one they could have picked there.
Yeah.
It takes the least amount of time and gives you the most opportunity for damage. What's interesting about it, though, is if you kill both the orcs during the Enrage, like he just did, they wait until the end of the phase to die. But then on top of that, if that's one of those bosses where if you die before they do, it doesn't matter, you still win the boss fight, just so long as they die. So you can actually kill them, then have their Enrage attack kill you, then after their Enrage attack ends, they die, and then when you reset, they're still dead. So it's pretty funny. A good post-mortem kill.
I imagine that's crushed a few people's dreams on the first playthrough, dying like after they've killed them both and resetting, thinking that there's no chance.
Yeah.
Only to find out later that they actually could have won. Alright, so Ziggy is in the Path of Decay now. I said before the Underworld's the hardest segment, but that's more my personal opinion. The Path of Decay is actually the hardest segment of the game.
Yeah.
Also the last stage, which, you know, I guess it makes sense. It's basically prove everything you've learned. A lot of the usage of like flutters and jumps here is just kind of precise. Seems to like really think about what you're doing. There's also these like little beating hearts. You have to like hit them or touch them a certain amount of times before the wall disappears. There's a few really cool strats you can do. Some of which like are sort of task level, so we don't do them.
Yeah, the thing about crumbly bits is if you only stand on them for 1 frame, I think it is, then they don't actually crumble after you jump off of them. So you can try to take advantage of it, but we call it a Taz jump because it's something that could be easily exploited in the Taz, but not really realistic to expect out of a human.
Yeah. It's not impossible, but I don't think anyone would go for it on a really good run. It just isn't worth it.
Yeah. But hey, that's what they once said about flagpole glitch in Super Mario Bros. So, you know, anything can happen.
People love to defy the impossible, it's true. So Red's actually coming up to Miyogi here. Maybe he'll be able to get the skip and give us an M2 skip for the run, for the race.
Yeah, that'll be excellent to see.
So I don't think I covered this before, but for this Mugi 2 skip, the main strat is to heal her 6 times at the start. And then this is basically the setup, so that so long as you attack her normally, her HP will work out so that you can stun her just as she enters in a rage. So after the setup, you're just playing the fight as normal. If you hit her before the yellow bar goes back down, you actually do heal her. So you need to sort of like time your hits and like wait after each one. It's very, very confusing when you first get here and you're just sort of spamming attack on her and wondering why nothing's working.
Yep. And
like,
the reason that
gotta...
you'll... so there's a couple of reasons that you often see people use the Lust weapon. And, oh no! Okay, he just... Wow. RedsToad just almost... What do you even do on the fight? So the reason that you'll often see Lust on this fight is because no matter what weapon you use, you'll only deal 1 HP of damage to her at once. Ah, he missed the skip also.
Yeah.
You'll only deal 1 hit point of damage to her, no matter what weapon you use at a time. So you might as well use the weapon that has the greatest range. Especially because when she throws out the large fireball, one tricky thing about the big fireball is that if you shoot it with an orb, it will kind of lunge towards you a little bit. But if you're using Lust, it's kind of easy to actually reach through the fireball and still hit her with melee without getting hit by it. So, good strat there. We haven't talked about suiciding centaurs yet. The reason that all the centaurs in this game tend to kill themselves is because they try to jump towards your last grounded position. And so if you enter that last room just right and not touch the ground, your last grounded position is not in a spot that's like available to be jumped to. So the centaur tries to jump to it and just dies. The other times, though, it might have been because you came off of a crumbly platform, which, you know, just means that he jumps to a platform that's not there anymore. And now Ziggy is fighting Azrael. Azrael's a really cool fight. So the deal with Azrael is you can't deal too much damage to her at once. As you deal damage to her, she grows this shield, and if you deal too much damage, her shield turns red and she becomes invulnerable for a while. The reason that it's important is because the regular blue form of the shield dies down faster than the red one does.
Yeah, Azrael, in like concept, well, in the same way as Dark Annihilator has you juggling a lot of things, Azrael is kind of similar. You have these platforms which are constantly falling down, so you have to like touch the sort of weird green faces to bring them back up. You gotta clear out the portals she's spawning before they go too big to get uncontrollable. You have to turn into demon form to get out these like needle circles that appear around you. There's just so much you gotta keep track of, and on top of that, you want to be doing damage because it's not just an avoidance. You gotta keep up. So it's a really sort of intense fight. There's a lot going on, and Ziggy has managed it first try, so very, very good to Ziggy. Going into the final platforming section of the game now. It's sort of a mini platforming section. Path of Decay is sort of like the main final platforming stage. Heart of the Banefall is more of a sort of a conclusion, an introduction to the final couple of bosses. And did Red get the password there? Actually, couldn't tell. I didn't see the box pop up.
Oh, I didn't see, actually.
I'm assuming he did because the door's open. For some reason, I didn't see the password pop up. But I think he's okay.
And we don't have his audio, so we don't hear the I love that sound.
It is a good sound effect.
So Ziggy's in Heart of the Baneful now. Yeah, this is a really tough checkpoint where there's just a lot of enemies. I think a lot of people kind of undermine the difficulty of this part, but the jumps in it are really precise. It's very short, and the checkpoints are pretty plentiful, but when you're trying to go fast, it can sometimes you can find yourself, I don't know, running into some spikes accidentally, and maybe getting a spike or two named after you.
Ooh, Ziggy's using no lust strats on J-Will. That's interesting. So Ziggy's using Envy here. That is Envy, right?
oh, okay. That was almost a triple headshot.
Almost a triple headshot. So in this fight, the best way you can damage J-Will is by, if he does the attack where he spawns 3 spikes, destroying them and then firing them back at them. Can do a lot of damage to him. If you shoot them in their head, it does substantially more damage. So that's really the key to a perfect fight here. Although getting them to hit at all is still good damage.
Yeah, triple spiking I think is more important than a triple spike does more damage than 2 headshots, right? Or maybe it's about the same.
I think so. Yeah, I don't actually remember the exact numbers, but it's something like that.
So yeah, most runners you'll see use Lust on this fight just to get a little bit of a distance between themselves and the boss. But if you're really good, you'll go for Envy. And Ziggy's really good.
He is indeed. So here's the final little stairway. The final boss, very, very ominous.
Yeah, the moment of silence.
Yeah. You'll notice by now that all of these friends are here, sort of help, because you can't do this alone. Final boss is quite something.
Yeah. The last boss is, I always say, it's the best boss designed in any game ever. This boss is just crazy cool. So the deal with it is he has a lot of different attacks that have to be kind of helped by your friends, where, first of all, he is constantly poisoning your soft angel flesh with his evil. So you are always taking damage in this fight, which is mitigated by the fairy Fiola, who flies around and drops health orbs for you. Now, they all have shields, so they aren't getting hit by the poison, but you can't attack while you're in a shield, so they can't actually deal direct damage to the boss. So the other thing is when he gets down and screams, you'll notice Ira does provide a shield for V in that moment of time, so you need to quickly get into her shield to not die from it. And then also, we've got that attack that we just saw where Amethyst occasionally creates an ice trap when J2 does his dive attack. And if you get him to dive into the ice trap, you get some a good opportunity for a lot of damage on him.
Yeah, so at 40% HP, Supreme J enrages, he kind of goes a bit nuts. All of his attacks sort of gain like an extra step. His laser, instead of just going up, it also comes back down. So.
And the first time that you enrage him and that happens, it's just...
Yeah, you're just like, oh, okay then.
Oh, no!
Yeah,
Ziggy just... No, the bite! He's got a worm coming now. Oh my gosh, he dealt with that so well. So one of the other things that Enraged J2 does is when he bites now, he also spawns a worm. And it's kind of known that if you don't deal with it exactly like that, it creates big problems for you.
Yeah, you really get that dealt with instantly.
Yeah, Ziggy did a really great job though, dealing with it later.
And Ziggy downs the boss. GG to Ziggy.
Yeah, 42.
That was a pretty slick run.
That's such a good time. It's like hilarious to be able to just play the game like that on the spot.
Ziggy is pumping out really, really good runs lately, especially. It's impressive. Get your GGs out in the chat for Ziggy, the winner of the race.
Yeah, absolutely fantastic. Red is making his way through the Path of Decay, though. And on the checkpoint that we were saying is one of the hardest. I think we were saying this. It's like, this is the most precise jump in the game. Probably,
yeah, for sure.
Having to get under those spikes and then up onto the crumbly platform.
I think we have Ziggy joined us, the winner. Is he here?
I'm here, yep.
Hello, Ziggy. Congratulations.
Hello. Thank you very much.
How did you feel that went?
It's very funny, like, every split went a little bit wrong, but nothing went horribly wrong, so it ended up being a decent run.
That's what matters, yeah. Little mistakes over big mistakes.
Yeah, 41 flat is pretty good, I think, in a race. Like, it's fine.
Yeah,
I also like how you're showcasing one of the more unique V-skins in the game here.
Yeah, I thought you would appreciate. It was not as unique as the strat I had to do for the orcs, though. Jeez.
Yeah, we saw you took a couple of hits early, so I mean, doing safe strats was kind of the wise thing to do there. Didn't want to risk it too much.
Yeah, and then they picked the slam attack, so that was pretty nice at the end to be able to finish him off.
Yeah, that was pretty nice. J2 went weird. Like, I managed to get him to scream from the dive, but from the right, and that completely messed me up. And I ended up really not having enough damage because I was, like, you decided to do one less attack than you should have.
Yeah.
I still managed to survive the long enraged dive I was forced to.
Yeah, we also
handle.
saw one of the bites that he did. You weren't on the platform for, so you
Yeah.
had
Yeah, the worm just came out of nowhere.
Yeah,
yeah.
if you ever wondered how to handle a worm like that, you do that. You wait until you have an occasion. You lure it and then you shoot it a couple times and hit down. You should be
Yeah.
safe.
Yeah, I mean
It's not
the
easy.
way you dealt with it was beautiful. I mean, you very clearly knew exactly what was going on, and you dealt with it beautifully.
Yeah, I just wanted the health. I didn't want to miss a health horde because I didn't know how long I would be stuck on that enrage. So it was safety.
Do the the health orbs go away faster during the enrage phase, right? Is that a thing?
I don't think so. No.
Oh, okay.
I'm not sure. It's just that the attacks last longer. So you might feel like they don't stay as long because you have less time to move from one platform to another, but they stay the same time. It's just the attacks a lot longer, like double laser, double balls, etc.
I'm not sure if Red tried to do the swag fast strat on the bone snake right there.
I think he's having a little bit of trouble. He did miss the heart once, which made him reset, and I think he's just he's struggling to get that. I think it's a third heart proc. Just
Yeah.
before he goes back on the snake.
This is probably my favorite checkpoint in the whole game. It's so cool how you get through this part.
Yeah, the segments with the heart mechanics, they're kind of like puzzly in a way. You kind of have to figure out how you can touch them enough times to get to the end, whilst also staying along with the bone snake. So
I'm going to go and open the commentary to see how it's going for Mr. Red. Oh, he's not on that bad a run though.
Yeah, he's just coming up on demon form now.
But yeah, I think that was my best race. Yeah, that was my best race in the tournament so far. My previous one was 41.23. This one's 41 flat. I guess I'm going to be sub 40 by the end of the Swiss.
Yeah, we're expecting that each next race is going to get better and better. So hopefully by the end of the tournament, you'll have world record, Ziggy.
Yeah, that's
the goal here.
Probably.
How hard can it be?
I don't know. Cake might improve it. I mean, the last few times he played it, he started with pretty amazing runs.
Yeah.
So.
Well, anything's possible, I suppose.
Yep.
Oh, I forgot to point it out, the off center rainbow trail that I was complaining about.
I didn't notice it. I was watching it and I didn't bother looking at the rainbow. I was just looking at the meatball. It's like, oh, that's a friendly guy. Oh yeah, he missed that.
Yeah, this checkpoint is really brutal.
Yeah, this last save is basically four different. They're all pretty different rooms. All in one go without any saves in between. Obviously, I mean, making use of the centaur thing that Dash mentioned earlier, you can make the third room a bit easier. And the final one, these rock throwers also do explode, so you can be kind of careful when you kill them. But Red's coming up to Azrael now. Hopefully he can make an easy time of it. Because Azrael can go quite wrong, but you can just... I mean, I think the key to Azrael is just keeping it cool and just managing everything before it gets too out of control.
Yeah, Azrael became a lot easier for me. One time I flawlessed her, and I was like, oh, it's not that bad. And then I just kind of became not afraid of her anymore. And ever since then, I've done a lot better on her. I
was always taught that the best way to get good at Azrael is to beat her on Demon.
Oh.
And then doing it on Model is like, oh, this is fine. On Demon, there is just stuff happening everywhere, which is, yeah. And then you go here, it's like, oh,
she drops 3 platforms at the same time, and she gives you 3 7-ways attack to handle at the same time, so you have to be much faster to handle everything.
Yeah. Quite intense.
So I mentioned before that you can only deal so much damage to her before her shield turns red. That's why you'll see most players use the default weapon on her, because if you deal 4 damage to her at once, that's like just enough to not red shield her. So it's a nice melee weapon to use. And there's a lot of things in this game that kind of revolve around the number 4. Like, it's really neat how the main weapon does 4 damage, and that it comes into play in a lot of different places, and this is just one of them.
Red had a pretty impressive dodge there, actually. He slid through 2 bullets. Looks like he's gonna get an Azrael kill here. Hopefully nothing goes too wrong. I've seen a lot of kills that look fine, and then one mess up and you fall off the bottom of the screen and you die. It can go wrong at any time, but thankfully it didn't.
Right. It's one of those things that's it's hard to see when you're just watching, but really the most important thing about that fight, if you ask me, is managing how many jumps you have and remembering how many jumps you have and using them in the right order and at the right time to not find yourself in a situation where, you've used up all your jumps and she drops the platform under you and you're instantly dead because you can't jump onto another platform.
Yeah, if you lose track of where you are and what you've got left to use, it just gets even harder than it already is. Also, for some reason here, Amethyst decides to just like put a platform behind you, even though she's meant to be helping you. She just kind of bruise cruises you and like bits you. I don't know why.
She's just a really big Mega Man fan.
Makes me really question the motives of Amethyst, but I don't know.
Oh, Amethyst.
Oh, you. Whatever will you do next? Alright, so Red's coming up to jail now. I'm assuming, yeah, he's going to use Lust strats. Lust is probably the most go-to strat on this boss. Again, like Dash said, it just gives you more distance between the two. And it's not, I don't think it's a giant decrease in damage of using Envy. Envy is the superior weapon, but I think Lust is Lust is a good choice. I always use Lust.
Yeah. And so you can hit the boss anywhere, but if you hit him with melee in the heart, his whole body flashes and it does more damage to him. So that's why you'll see the players kind of floating in front of him and hitting him right there, even though it looks a lot more difficult than just spamming his leg. Headshot, headshot, headshot!
Ooh, triple headshot.
Triple headshot. Beautiful.
Look at all those grapes spilling out of his neck. It's just, that's the sign of good damage.
Headshot. Okay, just the single that time.
Just the one this time.
Yeah, one thing that can be tricky about shooting the orbs back at him is that you only have so many orbs. Just before this boss, you actually get a feather that gives you an additional orb. If, people who speedrun this game might forget about that there's a cutscene right there, remember? You get another feather right there, and it lets you shoot another orb. I always
forget that. That's the thing.
It's pretty funny because the only reason you get saved is because Miyugi messes up.
Yep.
And she saves you accidentally.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that too. It's been so long since I've seen this, like the actual story of this game.
Yep.
Like a non-cutscene skip version.
It's one of the things too that it makes Miyogi's character so great. Her just like this big demon jewel that's like, "Get out of here, Miyogi," and she's like, "But Daddy, I'm just trying to help." Good stuff. So speaking of, I was talking about Azrael earlier. The most important thing that is hard to tell when you're just watching is managing your jumps and stuff. Similarly on this boss, pretty much the most important thing about this boss that's hard to get just from watching is knowing where the boss is and when he's going to move and where he's moving versus which of the two platforms that you're standing on. You have to like perfectly, you just have to constantly have complete awareness of what exactly is happening in this fight, because if the boss does something that you're not expecting, you get hit, and it can really easily just chain into several hits or cause you to fall directly into a pit or on one of those spikes that's on the side. Instant death happens a lot in this fight if you don't just perfectly plan out your moves.
Yeah, there's a lot of visual cues and visual tells that can kind of help you like know what he's gonna do next in this fight. That was obvious from the get-go.
Right, like now he's either gonna kiss or he's. Oh, sorry. Yeah. So now he'll probably backflip and go over to the left side of the screen.
Yeah.
Now he'll probably laser. Oh, he's doing the little kiss.
All right, so he's enraged now. Hopefully.
So now. Mm-hmm.
What happens? Yeah, so just taking out the worms immediately, not letting them get out of hand. Dodging the surprise second laser. He's doing pretty well so far. I mean, he's not in any immediate danger.
Yeah, he has a lot of health. Fights.
Yeah, there are some risky strats you can do on Enrage where you like laser tank to get more damage out, try and end the Enrage even faster, but it requires you, well, it doesn't require you to be on high HP, but makes the fight a lot safer.
Yeah. Wow, okay, so he had a weird worm kill there, but actually pulled it out really nicely. So that makes both runners had one weird worm kill. Okay, this is starting to look really bad. Oh, he's dead too.
Okay.
No, oh my gosh! I thought he was
Christ
going to
on
be
the
dead
bike.
to poison
That was
there.
quite close.
Oh, he melee killed him.
So Red just clutched that.
That was high. I was sure it was that. I wasn't looking at. Oh,
wow,
that was close to his PB.
8 seconds off PB as well done.
Wow, that's insane. And that was the most clutch J2 kill that we've seen yet, I think. That was insane.
That was dangerous. Very, very dangerous. Well, GG to Red, get your GG's up, guys. Well done to both runners there.
And we've got Red in here as well. How's it going?
Hello. This race went really great.
Yeah,
Super close to PB. Damn. I mean, that final kill as well on J2 was so close.
I really messed up that last part. That was I panicked.
Yeah, you were at like almost full health, and we were all just like, "Oh, this is great." He's, boss is almost dead. He's got full health, and then he just took like 4 hits in a row.
Feels bad, man. At least I didn't die.
Yeah. Right. It would have been really brutal if you died, because a late J2 death costs like over 2 minutes. So so that was very, very good. And yeah, basically a PB run. I mean, you essentially tied the best that you've ever done. So to be able to do that in a race is fantastic. Congratulations.
Yeah, that's good consistency for sure.
Thanks. Well, first time I actually did a quick kill on orcs. With that,
I saw that you said you've been practicing that. It's pays off.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm
with that I can definitely PB.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, that saves quite a bit of time overdoing it without the quick kill. Just a matter of time now.
Well, congrats to Ziggy for winning.
Hey, thank you. I had a pretty good run as well. That was my best race so far.
Yeah, I noticed. It says that you PB'd.
Yeah, you PB'd race PB by 3 minutes 42 seconds for you, so that's also really, really good, man. Congratulations.
Thanks.
All right. Yeah, that was a really good, really, really great race. And we've got more races coming up too.
We always have more races.
Just later today at 8, we're gonna have Shark versus Canaris. And then tomorrow we've got a couple races, as well as one on Sunday too. So lots more coming up. The one later today is on Speed Gaming 5, by the way. So
about that one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I've raised Canaris a little bit this morning, and there was one where Canaris was ahead of Shark's PB coming into library.
So nice.
Could be interesting.
You should definitely
practicing hard. Should be good.
You should definitely watch that race. It's gonna be really interesting.
Oh, I might have said it incorrectly. The race with Shark and Canaris is at 9 Eastern time. I'm not sure if I said that wrong. But Shark is baby raging in the chat, so I thought I'd clarify just in case. All right. Well, unless anybody else has anything else to add, I say thanks everybody for watching. Make sure to follow the runners.
Yeah, good job, guys. That was a pretty damn good race. Very solid times.
Thanks, GG.
And again, congrats to Ziggy for winning. And well, thanks for having me. That was great fun.
Yeah, congrats to you having just a great run, Red. So thanks everybody.
Catch you later, guys.
Goodbye.